Welcome to this week's office hours. I'm thrilled this week to be joined by our chairman, Jaideep Tandon. In the last couple of years, I just read the other day, I think roughly 16,000 practices were closed because of the pandemic and financial hardships. Between the pandemic and the constantly changing reimbursement environment, a lot of independent practices are really struggling to keep their doors open and are faced with decisions, right? Keep your doors open or be acquired by a larger health system or another entity. So this week, I think we've got a lot of really good information that Jaideep's brought for everyone around how do practices remain independent in this, what some would call volatile environment. So welcome, Jaideep. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be back on these office hours. I think we started these off, about 6 months ago, and it's wonderful to see we've been continuing on week over week and hitting on some really interesting topics affecting the healthcare industry.
Absolutely. Glad to have you back for sure. Let's kick it off. And if you could just tell us, what trends are you seeing in terms of the independent physician group market?
Yeah, so I think you sort of brought up that stat, right? And that's pretty jarring that so many physician practices have closed. And even prior to the pandemic, I had read somewhere that close to 8,000 physician practices had been acquired by health systems or consolidated with other groups between 2016 and 2018, I believe. So the trend has been continuing. What COVID did was definitely accelerate that. And unfortunately, not just in terms of the independence of physician practices, but a lot of them reached insolvency as well during that time. So it tended to accelerate, like I said, what was a industry trend that was already happening. It brought a lot of stresses in the patient volumes, which led to further financial instability in many of these groups. And really what we're seeing is it's getting more and more difficult for these independent practices to stay independent, if that's the path they want to choose, without really doing something different. And there's pressures coming from health systems wanting to consolidate in local markets, to private equity groups looking at stable cash flow type of businesses, but really, and also not underestimating the ever increasing landscape of regulatory and compliance requirements, right? Those are starting to be a tremendous burden on smaller physician groups for them to really be able to manage all of these things on their own. So we continue to see a pretty fast trend towards consolidation overall in the industry.
Mm-hmm. So we've all talked to practices that feel very strongly about remaining independent. There's a lot of pride in that. If I'm a provider and that is my goal, what suggestions do you have to avoid having to be put in a position where I need to be acquired in order to keep my doors open?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core of it is maintaining financial health, right? If the practice is financially healthy, if ever you do want to exit the market, you're going to command a premium compared to other folks in your market. So financial strength, I think, directly translates to independence, because you always will have options available to you. Now, how do you maintain that financial strength? It sort of goes back into making sure you focus on your core, the clinical specialty that you've focused on all these years. Try to reduce the administrative burden that potentially may have built up over the years through layers and layers of regulatory requirements that have kicked into the industry, and try to bring in best in breed of technology. I mean, it's what I find in a lot of sort of the market we play in, a lot of the independent physician practice groups have this fear of adopting technology and have this mindset that technology is expensive. And that's not the case today. The market landscape is very different than it was 5 years ago, where you can get started on new technology solutions for very specific business needs within your practice, in a software as a service SaaS model with very low upfront fees and pay as you go. And these solutions are OpEx solutions for you. So there's no big upfront CapEx you have to spend on. You use as much as you need. And if your business scales up, they scale up with you. If the business is shrinking, you're not paying for stuff you're not using. So it's really about sort of bringing in all of those solutions, working with your EMR partners and other technology partners to look at every aspect of your business to see, can it be automated? Can it be outsourced? And can it be sort of taken off your plate so that you're not focused on it and you're focused on the core competency you bring to the table, which is clinical and customer service around patient satisfaction. So as we sort of go through this, I'd probably just reiterate the financial health directly translates to that. So if you keep driving reimbursement rates for yourself, you collect all that you've built out for, there's minimal revenue leakage throughout your practice, it's going to be a healthy practice which will stay independent and will command a premium when you decide you don't want to be independent anymore.
So you talked a lot about technology. We're seeing this big push in healthcare towards interoperability. How do you think that, and I know we didn't talk about this before, but how do you think that plays into independent practices? Is that something that they should be concerned about?
So when you refer to interoperability between the various technology systems?
Yeah, and just data sharing with other healthcare providers and facilities.
No, I think that's a great question. Coming from I've been in the healthcare industry for many years now, so I can't say I'm not a healthcare person anymore. But back in the day when I first came into the healthcare industry, it just amazed me that everyone was so protective about their own data. And it was under the guise of PHI that, oh, we can't afford to have this data leak out, and it's too much of an issue.
Right.
But what I realized is to sort of all the EMRs, all the systems tend to want to hold on to their data and are insecure in the ecosystem that, oh, if I start to interoperate and play nice with somebody else, they'll take my customer away. And that's a very small-minded approach towards things, because it almost reinforces the fact that if you think like that, you probably aren't providing enough value to your customer, that you're insecure and that you're going to lose the customer, versus having the mindset of what more can I do for my customer? How can I make my offering more sticky so that my customer really values what I bring to the table for them? So I think interoperability is a great thing. It, in the end, helps the patient. And if the patient's satisfaction goes up, they're going to be happy with the entire healthcare ecosystem. Everybody wins. So we're strong supporters of it across our product line and service line. Wherever we get the opportunity to be able to integrate with an EMR solution, or we get partners who will take us into new markets, we're more than open to working with them, because we feel there is a lot to learn from all the partner organizations that are around to provide a better solution to the marketplace.
Thanks. So we talked about financial health. Obviously, operational budget is going to be a big part of that. Any recommendations on how to run a lean budget and stay profitable?
Yeah, I think sort of stressing on some of the points I already brought up, which is don't be afraid of technology, invest in it. And there are ways you will see the benefits. The ROIs will come almost immediately. And also look at non-core operations, what can be done for less expensive by a specialist, by outsourcing. Those are key areas, themes that we see in our customers, the ones that operate very efficiently are always looking at ways to reduce costs across the board. Now, I get some of the smaller independent physician practices don't have the resources to consistently look at that, but there are sort of few key areas that they can definitely, around their reimbursement operations, look at ways how they can cost reduce and prevent revenue leakage. Those are low-hanging fruit for them, where it's easy to bring more cash into the business, and that cash accumulates and makes the business stronger. The other area that we really look at and recommend to a lot of our practices is around patient engagement. Just like any other business, the physician practices should be looking at themselves wearing that customer relationship management hat. And what can I do to stay in touch with my patient, keep them healthy, and be there as a resource for them, so that when they do have a problem, they think of me and not the big sign down the street for the health system, and go into there. So maintaining those client customer relationships, patient relationships are extremely important to continue to see the volumes come into the practice. So just like any other business, it's making sure that the demand for the services and products is there, and you supply them in a very efficient manner. And as that comes together, again, payers are watching, right? Payers, as much as they're seeing that to them, the health systems consolidating is a concern. While they're also seeing it as a positive, they do see it as a concern, because competition is getting wiped out from the local market. So some independent practices may think of the payers as an adversarial relationship, but I see the trend moving towards a lot of the payers wanting some sustainable competition in the market, sort of as a counterbalance to these large health systems that are coming about in the local market. So there's definitely a lot of things that can be done to continue to stay financially healthy and independent.
We've talked about reducing operating budget, but there's no cash coming in if you're not getting reimbursed for services. So how can providers make sure that they're getting the maximum reimbursement, and obviously lowering write-offs?
It starts right at the top. First, having the right payer contracts in place based on the market conditions and the patient population that you're looking at, having those in place, getting credentialed appropriately, and doing all the front office things right, and between insurance verification and prior authorizations, just making sure when you do get a patient, make sure you get paid for that patient. And we see so many practices focus on the operational output of seeing more and more patients and taking their eye off of not verifying their insurance, and then having added costs in trying to chase that patient to get the insurance information, and then build a claim out. All that does is you're adding lag time to the cash collection operation. You're going to start seeing revenue leakage. So there's a lot of things that can happen way before you even see the patient, or even have the patient scheduled in. And then that continues through the overall life cycle, making sure the claim's going out right the first time. First class claim collection saves you a lot of time and effort. Having the right staff in place, looking at outsourced service providers and technology providers that can help plug some of those gaps that might exist. Talent availability it's been the worst that has been in the healthcare industry for the last 20 years. And so you have to look all places, be flexible in having remote workers, and looking at short-term vendors who can come in and help some of the overflow. So it's a multi-pronged strategy to really make sure that you're able to get the maximum reimbursement. And having, again, going back to some of the things I mentioned earlier, having the data insights, because if you don't know you're having revenue leakage, you won't know where to fix it, also where to plug it. And so having the data insights is important. So what we do for a lot of our customers, the first thing when we get engaged is we do a financial health check for them, where just do an assessment and say, how are you guys doing? And are there opportunities to do better? And almost, I'd say 9 out of 10 times, we find tremendous amount of opportunities where to help our customers recover more cash. It could be through old AR that's been sitting on their books 90 plus days, 120 plus days, and you'd be surprised how much cash can be realized out of it with the right approach. The same we see that their denials for perhaps a particular category are just way more than industry average, or a particular payer is not paying them appropriately. So there's a combination of one-time fixes that can happen. There's just a better approach in operationally putting in best practices, but all of them sort of holistically can lead to sort of that maximum reimbursement, right? And as I always say, it amazes me in healthcare how much revenue leakage happens, how much administrative dollar is wasted in just trying to collect money. And I think a lot of it has happened because of the complexity in the regulatory environment and the compliances and the burden we've created for physician groups. But in the end, there are solutions out there that can definitely help a lot of these things.
All really good points. I think the old adage, you don't know what you don't know, is really important, right? I mean, burying your head in the sand and not taking a look at your numbers, not identifying where that revenue leakage is coming from. And also not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but that's a great it's so eye-opening when we present some of our analysis to our customers. They're like, I never knew I had this problem. I thought my practice was just fine. And we're like, it's not all that. It is fine, but there is a tremendous opportunity for you, and it doesn't cost you much more because all the operational pieces that you have continue to exist. They will coexist by layering in certain solutions and technologies that can help you dramatically and bring you that data insight. So it's we start with the health assessment once, but that doesn't mean that's the end of it. It's an ongoing thing. So you see the trends that you're doing better, and there are times where a certain payer changes a policy, or there's some regulatory that suddenly throws everything out of whack. But that's why you have that data insight to say, hey, this month or this quarter I had this issue, but I've corrected it, and then you start to see the benefits of it versus waiting 180 days and saying, oh, I could have collected more money because of this one error. Blue Cross Blue Shield didn't pay me. And then you're chasing it on the back end.
And also, don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for somebody to do a health check. I mean, you're in your reports day in and day out. And a lot of times you just need another set of eyes to take a look and identify where there's opportunity. So.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't stress enough about first having the data available to be able to make identify where the issues are, and then to be able to make decisions. I mean, that's how we operate internally in our company too. We do prior authorizations for over 150 customers across the country. And I have a dashboard telling me how many authorizations we do every single day. What's our turnaround time? What type of denial rates do we have? All of those things are available to me at any given point in time. And it gives me a tremendous amount of insights. I'm able to see which physician groups and practices are growing, which ones might be stressed, so that we can go and address. And if their denial rates are creeping up, doing a deep dive analysis. Our customer success managers are tuned into that as well. So not only are they addressing just the customer needs, but they're approaching it from a perspective of having analyzed that data and having that power behind them to say that there are some decisions that can be done that can greatly benefit our customer partners.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jaideep. This was a really, really good conversation. We appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you. Enjoyed it, and look forward to getting back on here in a few weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you back here next week.
Thank you.